Alright guys, today we are going to be installing an AEM air fuel or wideband gauge into the Subaru. And I like doing this just to make sure my car is not running lean or rich with the mods I plan on doing in the future. You can use your access port to read this, I think, but I like having the gauge, plus I can show more on the access port. But I have actually already had this installed before, so some of my wires already ran, but I'll show you those wires and I'll show you how I ran them. But I'm going to be installing it into the vent pod, which I just ordered off eBay, I think, and I had to modify it a little bit to get it to fit in there. But you see there's two wires that go to it. Here's one of them. It's basically your power supply. Here is the O2 sensor that comes with it. And I'll show you the wire I already have installed that runs through the firewall. Also, you have to have an extra bung added in your downpipe if you don't already have one. I'm using the stock downpipe, so I had to have one added in there. Which is right here. There's the bung. I heat wrapped it because you have to take off the original heat shield to get that in there, so I went ahead and heat wrapped it. But here's the O2 sensor wire. And that I just ran down in there. And the best way to get to your firewall is turn your wheel or take it out and remove your fender liner, and there's a rubber grommet back in there that you can poke through the firewall, which I might be able to show you. Okay, so it is that right there. Hold on. This. So I just ran that through there from the fender. And take this out. And here it is. And right there. Just weave it up in there. Now the power wire, I actually tapped into one of the fuses before, so I'll show you how I did that. But we're gonna go ahead and start by removing the vent to switch that over. There's clips in there that can break or fall out, which mine's kind of loose. So one ended up falling out, but it's still pretty sturdy in there, but just be cautious of that. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove this Phillips head screw. And there's two little plastic clips over here on this side that kind of clip around here. That's why you have to remove this plastic piece here, so you can see in there, and it's kind of difficult to pop out, but you just kind of got to wiggle it around and move it. So here it is. Here's the clips. You're supposed to kind of push that in. So that's how you do that. Now you want to take a screwdriver or something, or if you can use your fingers, and pop this whole front piece off to take the whole vent shroud off itself. Just like that. Hopefully you guys can see this. All right, now you have these clips all the way around, and you want to unclip all those to separate this into two pieces, which just can be kind of difficult. I always have to use a screwdriver or something sharp to wedge in there, but make sure you don't break it. That wasn't too bad. Now you got to get this side. There you go. So here's how that works. Then you want to this just kind of sets in there. Just kind of pull it up, snap this side out, and it comes out. Now you got your new one. And it snaps in. Now I drilled a hole in the bottom of mine because that's where I ran my wires. So now I'm going to go ahead and run my wires up through this hole and go ahead and put them in there. This is the power cable I showed you earlier. There they are plugged in, so there's what it looks like in there, and this is still functional. Alright, so now let's go ahead and put the top back on. Just push it on over it. Then your front cover. Now just pull the slack out and push it back in. And make sure those two little clips on the other side go in the holes, and make sure that lines up with your bolt hole. And just like that, put your screw back in. And you can go ahead and put your plastic shroud back on. And there you go. Now we'll move on to the to how I run the power. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys how I did the power. So you have a red and a black. Red's power, black is ground, obviously. And I was gonna tap it into my OEM boost gauge up here, the wires back in there, but I was being kind of difficult. So I actually just tapped into a fuse here that's power on whenever the key is turned on. So I went to the store. I went to the auto parts store and got one of these and it's basically just a wire where you can tap into your fuse, any fuse. So there's where it goes into your fuse panel, and then you just put in the right fuse there that that's originally in here. And I just looked into my my fuse panel and my car manual book to figure out what was on when I turned the key on. I forget what it was. I don't know if it was like gauges or an accessory or something, but the one that I chose happens to be this yellow 20 right here. So we'll go ahead and take that out and just pop that in there, and we're pretty much finished with the interior part of it. So there's that fuse. Now we're going to take this and make sure it's in here. And there you go. Just like that. Saved your old fuse. And then you want to tuck all that back in there, but almost forgot the ground. So I just got one of these lugs and put it on the black wire, and I actually took a nut, the nut on the back side of this. I just put that on that bolt and then put the nut back on. Once again, make sure all your wires and everything are ran back in so you can put that in there. Don't run back up from the bottom. Put the nut back on. It is a nylon lock nut, so it's kind of a pain. You gotta hold it. All right, so that's ran. Now you just want to tuck all your wires in there, which you can shorten them if you want, but I did not. Put that cover back on. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn my key on just to make sure it's getting power. And it is getting power. So let's move on to the O2 sensor. Okay, so back to the bung down there. I believe it is mounted 13 or 15 degrees up and to the right. That's important. You also want it kind of as close to your turbo as you can, but you don't want too close so it doesn't burn up. So I just put it midway between the cat and the turbo, and that should be good. I'm gonna put anti-seize on the threads of my O2 sensor here, just some copper anti-seize, so that doesn't get seized in there. But I don't think that's significantly important, but I'm gonna set the camera down and go ahead and screw that into the bung. All right, so that is in. Now all that's left is to plug it into that wire that I showed you in the very beginning that you ran through your firewall from the fender. So let's plug that in. And I'm gonna run some zip ties up here, and then we'll go ahead and start it up, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. We start her up. Should run somewhere around 14.7. When you start it up cold, it's going to run more rich, which is lower numbers. Lean is higher numbers. So if I rev it, it goes rich. It goes like 13 something. I think when you do a full pull, it'll go to 12. But yep, there's how it looks like. Overall, that was a very easy install. And that. If you guys were interested in that gauge pod and how it worked, that would work for any gauge that size, but it was really easy too. Just be careful with the clips on your plastic gauge shroud. But yeah, short, easy install. And the hardest part would be getting a bung welded in your downpipe, which I didn't do that. I just took it off and gave it to somebody for them to do it, told them where I wanted it. But if you buy an aftermarket downpipe, most of the time it has an extra bung welded in it for an extra O2 sensor for something like that. So yeah, there's that. I'm going to be doing a little bit more stuff to this, so go ahead and tune in for more upgrades if you're interested in that. And if this helped you out, leave a like. And if you're interested in other mods I'm going to do, don't be afraid to subscribe, obviously. But yeah, thanks for watching.